Welcome to this episode of Berkshire Now News Magazine. I'm your host, Bruce Gogan. In this unprecedented time of the global pandemic, finding the right information can sometimes be a challenge. That is why for the next few episodes we will be focusing on getting you that information. Today we will be talking with the Executive Director of Pittsfield Community Television, Sean Sayre, who will tell us all that PCTV is doing to keep us informed. Massachusetts State Representative Tricia Farley-Bouvier will talk about how the state is now conducting the state's business, and Jake McCandless, Superintendent of Pittsfield Public Schools, will inform us on how remote learning is progressing in Pittsfield. Lindsay Hollenbaugh, a columnist with the Berkshire Eagle, talks about how to stay sane in this age of quarantine, and Kate Luzon talks about her group of sewers that are making some face masks at home for several institutions around Berkshire County. Let's start with Sean Sayre. We are here with Sean Sayre, Executive Director of Pittsfield Community Television. And Sean, can you tell me what PCTV is up to these days in terms of keeping the community informed?
Sure. Well, thanks, Bruce, for doing this program today, and it's a pleasure speaking with you. When all of the coronavirus crisis started hitting the Berkshires, we started to think that PCTV could play a very important role in getting very important and critical community and state information out to our public. So we immediately sort of shifted gears from the things that we've done for over 30 years at PCTV and more recently with WTBR-FM. With regards to member productions and community productions. And we shifted into the mode of being able to provide member things like the mayor's press conferences and very important health information from representatives at BMC and the health department. And, a good number of people from the community who are providing this information, this authoritative information. And we've been running that on a regular basis. We've been doing quite a few other things as well, but we knew at the very beginning that what we needed to do was protect the health and safety of our staff and our members and the public. And so we did close our facilities to the public and to members, which was a very difficult decision to make for an organization that serves the public and has always had our doors wide open to people that want to create television and radio programs and share them with the public. So that was difficult, but we realized that we have a job to do, and that's what we're going to continue to do. We've also reached out to our members to find alternative ways for them to create programming and to share it with people. So we've found ways that they can transmit programming to us, and doing something similar to what we're doing right now between the two of us on a Zoom teleconference, which is to be able to remotely interview people. The Morning Drive program that Bill Sturgeon has done like a trooper for the past more than 1 year here at WTBR's studios. He's continued to do that on a remote basis with guests, so that he doesn't have to have guests come into the studio with him. So that's another way. But he's still had some very important guests with him and some very important programming. Brian Andrews from the Berkshire. From County Ambulance, for example, did a great show. He's had a couple shows with the mayor and the superintendent as well, and done some. He actually did one with Father Chris from St. Agnes in Dalton to talk about spirituality during this time. So, we've done a lot of good things like that. We've had many PSAs that we've run on PCTV's channels and WTBR that come from the CDC and the Mass Department of Health. We've carried the governor's press conferences. In fact, as we're speaking right now, the governor is speaking live from the DCU Center in Worcester, and we've picked up that feed and we're airing that. Another important thing, Bruce, that we did was we accelerated a service that was in the works already for a couple of months, but we weren't quite ready to launch it, and it was something called PCTV Select, which is an over-the-top app that people are able to download on their Roku device and their Apple TV device. And that's really meant for those people who have already cut the cord and gotten rid of their cable subscription, but they still live in town and they want to keep up with what's going on here at PCTV. Now they can use those over-the-top devices to get that important information too. So, we've done a number of things to keep up with what's been going on and to serve the public while also trying to keep everybody safe.
I assume all of this programming is then archived somewhere. Is that accessible to the general public? And if so, could you tell them how they can access it?
Yeah, any program that we produce from PCTV or that's produced by our members locally in Pittsfield is available on our website, which is pittsfieldtv.org. And there's a way that you can go in and search for video on demand programming. And then the other nice thing is that the Roku and the Apple TV apps called PCTV Select will also allow you to search our video on demand library and watch those at any time. So if you missed it live, you can always go back and watch it.
Very impressive. Are you staying safe?
Yes, we are actually.
And how are you doing that?
Well, so we've got some technology, and that we've put some things in place over the past few years that have allowed us to do this remotely. Not every business can move many of their employees to remote work, but luckily we have some technology that allows us to do that and to keep our channels on and running. So we have at least one technical person who's manning the building, shall we say, during business hours, even though the business itself is closed to the public. And that's just so in case something goes wrong inside the facility, someone is there to manage it and take care of it. And the other employees are able to log in remotely from home and do some of the business that they're used to doing. Obviously, there are no city municipal meetings just yet, but we did carry a meeting from the BCC Board of Trustees last week. That was a Zoom meeting that the trustees put up, and we were able to televise that live and put that on the air. And I suspect that when the Pittsfield municipal meetings get going again, that we'll do something similar so that people will be able to tune into CityLink Channel 1303 as they always have when those meetings are live, and they'll be able to watch those. They might look a little different because they won't be from city council chambers and they won't have everybody in the same room. But I think we're all getting used to that at this point. We're all getting used to maybe a new normal, a little different than we used to, but we're still finding ways to connect. And I think your city government, will find that way, and PCTV will be the means by which we'll deliver that meeting to you so that you'll be able to watch it.
Very good information. I commend you and your staff on the way they're handling this, and I want to thank you for being with us today, Sean. We hope you stay safe and healthy. You take care.
Same to you, Bruce, and we really invite people to keep watching the channels of PCTV. Again, they can be found on cable channels 1301, 1302, and 1303. You can keep listening to WTBR FM, which is on 89.7. And again, you can get us on pittsfieldtv.org. This is our website, and look for the app called PCTV Select, which is on the Roku and the Apple TV platforms. Thanks again for having me, Bruce. This has been great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean, for you and your staff's hard work and dedication for keeping the public informed. Being a lawmaker in these times is more challenging than ever. Massachusetts State Representative Tricia Farley-Bouvier will tell us what it's like now.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Tricia. Tell me, what is it like doing the state's business now that you can't go to Boston and participate in the House of Representatives? Or do you?
So there's a lot of work, right? So just to remind people that, I'm the state rep for Pittsfield, so I spend the great majority of my time in Pittsfield. Because it's important for me to be in touch with local community partners, whether it's the city or people providing services and people in business. So always the great majority of my time is in Pittsfield. Not going into the State House, of course, has been a major change, and the House has been working to adjust how it does business. We actually have a call later today with the entire membership. It's the first time we've had an entire membership call with the Speaker to talk about more of operations of the House. So as a state rep, what is my job? My job is to connect state government with local government in the local community. And so I've been able to do that pretty effectively virtually because we have systems in place and, quite frankly, long-standing relationships in place that make it easier to do that. And so, for example, when there was a law that needed to be passed in an emergency manner around municipalities because so many towns need to adjust their town meeting schedule. People had special elections coming up or town elections coming up. And so we needed to pass that law. We couldn't do a public hearing on the law, on that bill. And so they adjusted that by taking written testimony. I was able to be in touch with the folks in the city of Pittsfield saying, take a look at this bill. What does it mean for Pittsfield? We know it's mostly focused on towns, but we want to make sure there's no unintended consequences for Pittsfield. They gave us feedback. We submitted that via testimony. We were able to incorporate some things into that bill. And then that bill has passed both electionally. It's going back and forth between the House and the Senate right now. So things like that can happen virtually. It's not ideal. And we need to make some adjustments because it's one thing to pass some emergency legislation for funding. For example, there's $15 million we were able to pass, within the first couple of days to be able to get the command center in Boston the funds they need to do the work. We can't continue to push money out the door without some oversight. And quite frankly, taking votes on it and debating on it, that's what that is for, right? So, advocacy is something that we're doing constantly. But there are definitely some tricky situations and glitches that we have to work out as far as the working of the House.
Now, do you do that via email or telephone or like teleconferencing like we're doing today?
Yeah, we do a whole variety of things. Today's all-member call will be a phone conference.
What kind of conference?
A phone conference.
Phone conference, okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And what steps are you taking to stay safe at home?
Sure. So we are mostly right here in the house. You can see behind me, my husband's garden is started behind me. This is my home office. And we are, doing everything we can to limit our interactions outside the house and, trying to keep everything as clean as could be. Like everybody else, we're washing our hands a ton. We are, using our hand sanitizer. We're being very careful as things come into the house, whether it's the paper or the mail or the groceries. So, we are learning as we're going, adjusting when we see new information, and trying to have this time be, productive and healthy for all of us here.
Now, Tricia, one of the things that you're involved in, there's a group of people in Pittsfield that are gotten together to sew masks. Your involvement in that, can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, so I heard about that happening. It's happening all over the Commonwealth, all over the country, and quite frankly, all over the world, that people are doing these homemade masks. And I, poked into it a little bit. Is this a good idea or not a good idea? And, what I concluded for myself was that it's certainly not medical grade material. It's not a medical grade personal protective equipment, but it can be ways to get people a simple bit of protection so that we can make sure all the medical grade PPEs are going to our healthcare providers. And that is our goal here. So we're providing it for people, for example, who are working at the homeless shelter, or people who are working in group homes, or people who are working with frail elders that, aren't, COVID positive, but just who are frail elders and need medical care. So that's the effort here. It's been tremendous to see the outpouring of support and people willing to roll up their sleeves and get the work done.
That's a wonderful activity to be involved in, and I commend you for that, as well as the people that are actually doing the work. So we thank you very much, Tricia, for being with us today. We hope that you stay healthy and productive.
Thank you, Tricia, for your kind participation. The kids are now home and not in school. How do they relearn how to learn? Jake McCandless, Superintendent of Pittsfield Public Schools, tells us what they are doing to make this challenge easier.
I'm here with Jake McCandless, who is Superintendent of the Pittsfield Public Schools. Jake, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today is what online learning availability is there for children in the Pittsfield School District? How can they continue their schooling when they can't go to school?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's the key question that everybody is asking now, including those of us that are tasked with actually providing this. Commissioner Jeff Riley, who is the Commissioner of Education here in the Commonwealth, is kind of insisting that we discuss this as remote learning, not necessarily online learning. There are our local PBS stations here in Massachusetts and the Boston stations, WGBY out of Springfield in our particular instance, are showing educational programming all day as an example of a non-online means of students keeping some of the knowledge that they have built over the year and some of the skills they have built over the year, but just keeping learning alive in some form. So we have released a pretty vast set of resources on our website. And for anybody watching who wants to check it out, it's www.pittsfield.net. If you look under the quick links on the right-hand side of our homepage, we have a learning at home section of our webpage that we've really been working on for about 3.5 weeks at this point, anticipating probably about mid-February that we were going to reach a day where we would likely not be in session anymore thanks to the coronavirus. So we have a whole host of online resources that are available to families. Again, that's pittsfield.net. And our teachers have, as educators and teachers always do, have stepped right up with their creativity and their desire to stay in communication with their students. So we're very grateful to our teachers union for stepping right in and stepping right up. And we are using primarily a platform that's part of the Google suite of tools, Google Classroom. All of our students, kindergarten through 12, have pittsfield.net addresses. For elementary school students, those addresses can only communicate with other addresses within pittsfield.net. For our older students, they are actual real outside world email addresses. And we're using the Google suite of tools and that Google Classroom to really as our primary means of moving forward. We have been working really feverishly on a plan to safely deploy laptop computers, Chromebooks, to families that may not have devices at home, although a great deal of what we're pushing out to families right now can actually be done on a smartphone, on an iPhone or an Android phone. So one does not necessarily have to have a laptop, but there's certainly a whole nother set of tools, the way you and I are communicating right now via a Zoom meeting being one of them, that really requires a laptop. And we have enough laptops to distribute to students. We are awaiting an order of power cords, and then we're awaiting how we're actually going to do this in a way that's safe, in a way that's orderly, in a way that ensures we'll get most of those machines back when all of this is over, but most importantly, trying to do it in a way where we're not actually exposing our staff or our families to the virus through trying to do good in the community.
That's wonderful. How do you communicate this to the parents? Or do they have email addresses that you can access?
Yeah, so like most schools, school districts in Massachusetts and across the country, and certainly here in the Berkshires, we have a messaging system that we use to communicate with our families. In our case, it's called School Messenger. So we have sent out probably more than a dozen communications that go out by telephone, by text, and by email. And so one of the messages that we would send to your listeners that we really are desperate to pass on is we need a working email for as many families as we can. And if you are not getting communications via email from the schools or from the superintendent's office, then we ask you to please email your school principal or get in touch somehow with your school principal to give them an email address that is current and that works. We're putting all of this out on Facebook. We're putting it out on Instagram. And so it's really vital that we do have email addresses, but we use really every means at our disposal to try to get the message that school may not be open, but learning can continue, as well as to emphasize, the things that are out there to keep individuals and families and communities safe, like staying home, hand washing. Today we sent out an email district-wide reminding people that even though we're in some really strange times, the United States Census for the year 2020 is ongoing, and to please respond to the census, because that will really impact our next decade's funding structures from the federal government for those of us who live here in Pittsfield. And then, also on our website is a series of links that we encourage people to look at that cover everything from how to access unemployment benefits to some ways to stay mentally healthy and patient during this time when all of us that are trying to stay home. The reality is families can get on each other's nerves, and we've provided some resources to help families understand that that's perfectly natural, and some ways to consider working through that stress that these times are causing.
Really great information. Is there any way, Jake, of determining what the percentage of participation is? I mean, how many families, children are online any given time during the day?
Yeah, we do. Some of our tools, like Google Classroom, do actually keep track not of individual users, but of how many people are accessing the tools. So we can keep track of that. We are looking to put out a survey to try to wrap our heads around how many families might want to take advantage of our laptop computer handout program when that happens. And then on top of that, the computers are great, but if families don't have internet access, and that's a reality for many families here in Berkshire County and even here in Pittsfield, where we're pretty well covered by internet, but where the service simply has a cost attached to it that is unattainable for some families. We're really trying to figure out how deep we can go using online learning as our primary means of remote learning. I think it's important for everyone that's watching to understand that we're also looking at sort of a purchase of good old-fashioned workbooks for various courses and grade levels, that as soon as it's safe to do so and we can figure out a safe way to do a distribution without endangering families, a means of distributing workbooks and pencils to students. So even if the internet is not going to happen in that household, learning in some more traditional formats can go forward.
Very impressive. It looks like you're attacking it on many levels.
We are. I would just have to say, one of the things that I am internalizing as a person from this entire situation is how grateful we should be for so much of what we have, including the people that we have. And I have to say, taking part in the mayor's daily conference call at 10 a.m. with other city department heads, I feel very thankful for the deep expertise that we have here in the city of Pittsfield in dealing with difficult situations. And I'm certainly grateful for the amazing team that we have here in the Pittsfield Public Schools, that from assistant principals and deans of students and teachers and paraprofessionals that are throwing out ideas, to central office administrators who are putting together this remote learning plan, and also have to throw in the custodians, the food service workers, and the bus drivers who are making sure that the 500 or 600 meals that we're distributing a day are getting out to people. You know, custodians for keeping the kitchens clean and sanitary, the food service workers who are preparing these meals, and the bus drivers that are actually transporting them to 8 different sites around the city to make sure that the most basic of our family's needs are being met as much as we can.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Jake, we're just about out of time here. Any last things that you would like to tell our listeners?
Yeah, we just you know, to everybody who's watching, who's listening, you know, obviously when I talk to friends and acquaintances who are in their 80s or in their 90s who say to me, I've never seen anything like this before. Now, these are people, some of whom have lived through World War II, the Korean conflict, the Vietnam conflict, the Great Depression in some cases, when they were young. We understand as a school department, we are dealing with an unprecedented situation. We are very grateful to all of our families who are being eminently patient with what sometimes feels like forever for some of this programming to roll out. And I just would say to everybody listening, student, non-student, whatever, it is more important than ever that we as a community realize that care for our community starts with care for ourselves, and following these rules around staying home and social distancing, so that the real heroes of this situation, which are the people who make the hospital work and our healthcare folks, you know, in all levels of our healthcare organizations, we need to be doing our best to keep their jobs as manageable as possible.
Yes, indeed. Jake, thank you so much for your time today.
You are very welcome. It's been an honor.
Jake, that was such great information. Thank you. Staying at home with your kids? Staying sane? Let's see what tips Lindsay Hollenbaugh has for us. You wrote an article about surviving with kids at home during this quarantine period. How is that going for you, and what have you discovered?
Well, yeah, so I'm writing a daily column called Quarantined with Kids. I have a 4-year-old son named David, and we've been home. This is the start of our 3rd week, which is hard to believe, actually, because when we first started, like day 1, day 2, I thought, how the heck are we going to do this? But it's actually been going surprisingly well. We've had some, days where it's a little tough, but we've somehow developed a routine, because even though we are home, David and I'm still working at the Berkshire Eagle. I'm the managing editor of features there, so I'm still helping put out sections and writing other stories, and also being mom and head cafeteria lady and part-time coloring friend and sometimes Avenger. So it's a lot of different things to juggle, but I have found in the chaos that we can still have some routine, and that seems to really help.
I would think that would help because, if you got a routine every day that you can do with your child, then maybe it seems like it's not so bad anymore, especially if he can't go out and play with other kids.
That's right. Yeah, we, I think early on, I also was part of this group of parents where I first thought, like, okay, I'll have a color-coded schedule and we'll stick to this and that didn't work right away. It was, my schedule and his schedule had to kind of neat. It has to be flexible. My son is also the kind of kid who really does need structure, and he needs to know what's coming. Now, everybody's got different kids. Some kids, they just roll with it, but my son almost every day needs to have a kind of, okay, we wake up, I let him watch cartoons in the morning, I do some work, have coffee, then we do some kind of exercise, which is usually about 30 minutes, and it's usually mommy trying to squeeze in some exercise while he jumps on top of me, kind of like goat yoga, but it's like preschool yoga. And then mommy works for a while, and what I found is if I kind of just let him be, he's really figuring out how to fill the space with his own creativity, his own playing, and that's been really amazing to see. And then our meals, we keep our meals, we have breakfast, lunch, dinner at very specific times. And thankfully, he still rests for about an hour and a half. So, but all of that is contingent within like a half an hour padding. There's no like, it's 8 a.m., we do this now.
Right.
It kind of flows throughout the day. But we do the same 4 or 5 things every day around the same time.
So routine seems to be the key, you think?
Yes. And also trying to figure out like, how do we make Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday feel different than Friday, or feel different than Saturday or Sunday, even for adults, even, just for us, right? It can be really easy to get trapped in this kind of pajama wearing, eating junk food all times of the day, sitting in front of our computer screens or the news. And so, my husband still has to work outside of our house. And so that provides some structure for us, so that Saturday and Sunday when daddy's home, Saturday is daddy's day. He takes them, they find a new trail to walk, or they play in the backyard. And I have a couple hours alone, which I think is really important for parents as well.
Yeah.
If you have one parent who's home like I am, or even if it's both of you, give each other just a couple hours break each week. But we also break up the weekends, like on Sunday, we get to wear pajamas all day. Like I make a big fuss out of it. Like, oh, it's PJ day. Friday night's a movie night. And we order pizza, so things like that. Just having the little celebrations that you can have week to week to help your children understand that it's what the week schedule still is.
Now, when your husband comes home, how does he decontaminate?
Yeah.
And
So that's
decompress as well?
Yeah, it's kind of a we're still figuring that out, to be honest. But for him, I mean, he's got about an hour commute because he works over in East Greenbush, New York. So I think he really decompresses, thankfully, on that drive. And he hits the door and he understands that I'm usually waiting at that door and David's usually waiting at that door ready for daddy.
Right.
So he's usually ready to go. But so what we do is we have a mud room, and he usually comes in the side, and we have a bathroom downstairs with our laundry room, luckily, in it. We're really, really lucky. So he walks, he keeps his shoes outside. He walks right in, basically strips down. I usually wash his pajamas every day, and he keeps fresh pajamas in there. And then he washes his face, hands, the whole deal. And then he kind of comes out of the bathroom door, ready to play and ready to go. But it's a big concern for us. He works at work. He's not around a lot of people, but we understand that he's kind of our person who might bring it in or bring it out or anything like that. So we are taking a lot of extra precautions. And David understands.
Lindsay, it must be nice to have your little one sleep for an hour or two in the afternoon. I can't imagine what it must be like with 4 or 5 kids at home. Next, we will look at how a group of sewers is making a big difference in our community.
So we are here with Kate Luzon, who has been involved in a project making masks for, I assume, healthcare professionals or just anybody who needs them. Which is it, Kate?
Right now, we're focusing on facilities that have requested, and it's usually by somebody that's high up in admin. We don't just take an employee. Well, we've had employees reach out and we say, give us a contact from your admin that we can make sure this is good. And we ask some protocol questions as well.
Sure. Now, how did you get involved in this in the first place?
I'm a co-director over at the Tyler Street Lab, and I created a community sewing program about a month and a half ago. And we were meeting at the senior center, the Froyo Senior Center on North Street. And I just learned how to sew along with 7 or 8 other individuals. We have an instructor. So when I saw people making masks online, I said, I can do this. So I took the pattern and I started making some masks, and the next thing you know, I'm coordinating the mask making. So I'm not really sure how that happened.
Just kind of snuck up on you, perhaps.
It did a little bit. I know that people know that I'm good at coordinating community things, so and events. So it was probably pretty natural for them to say, why don't you take over this part of it? And of course, I'm agreeing to help at this point with anything that I'm doing.
So how many people are involved in making masks with you now?
So there was a group that had started that has about 30 ladies, and I joined up with them, and then I joined with the South County Disability Rights group down in South County. And I started getting all of these emails from posts that we've been putting on Facebook. So we have well over 100 sewers right now.
My goodness.
Yeah. Yep.
That's wonderful. And so would you have an estimate as to how many masks you've distributed so far?
It's right around 400. I counted last night. I have a spreadsheet that I've been working on, and it was just around 400 for masks delivered. That doesn't mean that we're still getting masks every day. We have drop-off points, so we're getting them all the time. But as of last night, it was just around 400.
And is there any procedure you go through to sanitize them before distribution?
No, that's one of the protocols that we ask of the facilities who are reaching out. We say, do you have a drop-off point that doesn't involve people, like a container left out that we can just drop them in? The other is, can I have a contact of an admin that'll approve you getting masks in your place? And the other one is, you must have washing and sanitizing facilities, because we cannot be responsible for that. We'll be happy as a community to make the masks, but there's no way to guarantee that they'll be sanitized coming from us to the drop-off point. So
I understand. Now, if people wanted to get involved in making masks for this, is there a way to contact you? Is it your email?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways that you can contact me, and a lot of people have just messaged me on Facebook, so you can find me on Facebook. I have a public profile. It's Kate Luzon, and I'm in the Berkshire Mutual Aid network, so that's another way, is the BerkshireMutualAid.com. I think it's at gmail.com. BerkshireMutualAid@gmail.com is the email that I will get for that. And also the South County Disability Rights @gmail.com. So there's like a few ways. Sorry.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So you're at home sewing these masks. Where do you get the materials? Is it materials you have at home, or?
So yes, some of the materials are at home. Joanne Fabrics has been putting packages together for people where they can just call and go pick up a package of mask making materials and make masks at home. And honestly, I think if, along with me and any other crafter person, we already have a lot of these materials at home. So we're just using what we have first. As long as it's like 100% cotton and it's tightly woven, that's what they're asking for. We have like 3 different patterns that you can use.
Wonderful. And are these fashion statements, or are they kind of plain, or a combination?
I think it's a combination. I've had people just, whatever materials they get, plain stuff. And I've been having fun with some materials that I have here. And one of them is some Lego guys. I have Emmett, the little Emmett here. Let me see if I can get there you go. There's Emmett. So, and then I had some of this laying around, and this is some fire flames. So maybe that would be good for a fire department if they wanted some.
Wonderful. Are you getting requests from multiple agencies?
We are. Right now, we have about a list of 30 agencies that have gotten hold of us. And it's all the way from police departments to nursing homes to places that employ CNAs and PCAs and the emergency daycares that have to be open right now. So, yeah.
Wow. So if we could get more people involved in this, we could accommodate a lot more of these agencies.
I think so. I mean, we do have a lot of sewers, and we're now moving at a steady pace where people are dropping off stuff every day in the containers, so we're able to get them to the places that they need to go. But there's a few nursing homes that have or need well over 50 or 60 masks. One place came in yesterday that needed 180. So we're working to fill that right now.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Very commendable, and I am in awe of how the community is coming together to help out with this.
Yes,
On
me
another
too.
note, you're stuck home
I am.
sewing with kids. How
Yes.
are you surviving, and do you have any tips as to how to survive?
I think that to keep sane through all of this, I think we all have to give ourselves the time to be able to process all of this and not be so strict as, okay, you guys have to do school 4 hours a day and sit down. You have to be able to give them breaks. You have to be able to have fun with them. We have been playing games. We've been doing, instead of like sitting them down and doing math on the computer, I have them bake something with me in the kitchen, so they're learning cooking math, right? I bought a big Lego set that was delivered to my door the other day so we could do some geography and US history. So.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thank you very much for spending some time with us today. We
Sure.
wish you well, and please stay safe and healthy.
Thank you.
What a great project. If you are interested in this worthy cause, please contact Kate at one of these email addresses. Together, we can make a difference. I go hiking in the woods several times a week. A couple of days ago, I came across an uplifting scene on top of a mountain. I took this video with my cell phone, so it's not great quality, but it is a great message. See you next time. Stay safe.